So in today's video, I'm here to talk about none other than Anime Fest 2022. This convention takes place in Dallas, Texas. Now, the thing about this convention is that it was always something I wanted to go to, I wanted to check out, but unfortunately it was like maybe a month and 3 weeks after A-kon, which I've been going to A-kon for forever. But, let's be honest, like for some people, they can only afford to go to one convention a year, some people two. And it really depends on how far away you're traveling. For me, this isn't too far away. This is about 3 hours away. But it was a tough decision to make always. And I ended up just sticking with A-kon. So for the first time, I'm able to not only go to A-kon and a couple of other nearby conventions, but I'm also able to hit up Anime Fest. So without further ado, I would like to... Warriors assemble! Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I am Ryofu, and you are watching The Gaming Harbinger. So I wanted to start this off, not trying to get too sentimental or get emotional or anything, but I am being honest that in 2020, I had originally planned to go to this convention with my uncle, and it was kind of one of those things where we both had enough money to where we were good to go. We wanted to finally check it out, as well as go to A-kon. And this was in the earlier time period of when we weren't sure what was going to happen with the pandemic. So it was before all the shutdowns and stuff. And of course, eventually Anime Fest was canceled. Another fun fact about all of this is that this is actually the hotel that A-kon used to be at years ago. We're talking about maybe 9 or 10 years ago. I can't really remember. Years are starting to blur. But let's say 10 years ago, A-kon used to be at this hotel, and it brings back all kinds of memories I had here. So I do want to add that this convention isn't as big as A-kon, but I have to put a small asterisk next to that because, to be honest with you, even though it's not as big, it is still in the big category, and there's lots of things to do here. So whether you love weird cosplay, or you still have a soft spot for those anime music videos, or hell, let's just say you're into freestyle dancing. This could be the place for you. Being in a building that I had visited multiple times in my 20s brought back so many memories, not in a sad way either. I mean that smell of pizza, freshly opened ramen, French fries, BO. It just takes me back to my youth. What? I'm being serious. So this convention brought me back to like what really intrigued me about conventions in the very beginning. And it's probably not something you're thinking of off the bat. I was just mesmerized by the diverse age of the audience. It was clear to me in this moment, like everything I thought in the early 90s and the mid 90s was just reaffirmed. And I knew that, okay, not to say one is better than the other, but when I look at anime in comparison to Western animation, the box is so much bigger. There's less limitations. Now, don't get me wrong. There are parameters there. But, with Western animation, it has to fit like, okay, it's got to be for kids, but it's also got to be for adults. We can have our undertones of adult humor. And don't get me wrong, there are some great writers and stuff out there, but they have to work within certain parameters. And it's nice, or at least it was, when I first got introduced to anime, that the parameters look a lot bigger in anime. So the convention used this app called Guidebook to keep track of the schedule I've used Guidebook on a couple occasions. I did not have any issues whatsoever. In fact, I do want to point this out, and I do give applause to this. I give applause and praise to this because this is something that is important to me, but the schedule came out literally like 8 or 9 days before the convention, which gives you some time to look over stuff, see what you want to go to, see what guests are going to be there, because sometimes guests do cancel. So this was wonderful. I have no complaints on this whatsoever, and this is probably the earliest that I got a schedule. So once again, just like A-kon, I was able to get my badge mailed to me, which that is like the greatest thing ever. From what I know, Anime Fest has always done this, or at least they have been doing it for years. I absolutely love this feature. So the hotel rate for this was also a price that's much more reasonable. I believe it was like $169 a night, and if that sounds like a lot, I'll just say that A-kon was like double this price. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of sad when you look at $169 and you kind of have a sigh of relief and you're like, thank God, thank God. So one of the first panels I went to was a voice actor by the name of Danny Chambers. Had a lot of fun here. This was a great way to start the convention off. She went over like just some basic things on if you're considering to be a voice actor, as well as some of her high quality bloopers in Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney. So the second panel I went to was called Rise of the English Language Visual Novel. And this was actually a very, very good panel. I had a really good time here. Learned a few things because I am someone that dabbles in visual novels. I won't claim that I'm an expert by any means. I learned a lot of interesting stuff, the dynamics and the culture. It was a very interesting panel. It was just ran very well. Shout out to the person that got this stuff together because she really knows her stuff. As you saw in the intro, we got a pretty cool performance from Gosaki Daiko. Shout out to them. This happened at the end of opening ceremony. For any of you viewers that have never been to a convention, it's like a moment to introduce all the guests to the con, as well as a moment to let you know who are all the sponsors. This was a pretty standard one as far as opening ceremonies go. So from what I remember back in the day, A-kon in the early 2000s, they used to crush on opening ceremony. They would get busy. And by that, I mean, they would hire someone, whether it was Foamy the Squirrel or Red versus Blue. Who else am I forgetting? Ask a Ninja. And obviously these sound like throwbacks for some people that are a little younger in the audience, but they used to get those people like, hey, just tell all the rules for A-kon, and then they'd make a little skit, put out a video, and they'd post it up for A-kon during opening ceremony. And I mean, this shit had people falling out of their seats. I really miss this, and I wish more conventions would go back to doing this. Like I said, I have no idea. Maybe A-kon wasn't the first one. Maybe every convention was doing this at the time. But I think they should go back to this because I think it's great. It's just, it takes less responsibility off of the presenters, and they can just make a short speech, get off, and let people that want to be entertaining and funny, let them do their thing instead of making someone else try to be funny and entertaining.
Rule number 3. Please remember to drink responsibly. We all know that if enough stinky people break rule number 2, and you can't kill them because of rule number 1, well, then you're going to want to drink yourself into oblivion.
That's what I would do.
But that's not a solution, especially if you're a minor.
Yeah, if you're a minor, maybe you should just walk into the convention right now. Go try out for sports or something. Seriously, it's not too late.
All right, this next rule is vital. And listen carefully. Shower, okay? Take a fucking bath. This convention is 3 days long. Have some mercy on the rest of us and take a bar of soap and chuck it underneath your arms. Start scrubbing for 30 minutes, then come back, okay? We'll still be here.
I decided to go a little out of my comfort zone and attend Jezebel Belladonna's panel on VTubers. I don't know a whole lot about VTubers with the exception of I, who has been around for forever. But this panel really shed the light on the behind the scenes and how to get started as a VTuber, as well as just some of the lingo I've heard but I didn't really understand. Not only did I end up enjoying the panel, But Belladonna was really sweet and patient with all the people asking questions.
Start streaming or YouTubing in general, and you end up with about 12 different jobs. I actually work full time outside of being a YouTuber, so I basically have 2 full-time jobs. Do I sleep? Maybe. Maybe probably not as much as I would like, but it's very hard. You have to find those balances, and yeah, it's just a lot goes into it. It's hard, but I find it's really fun. I really enjoy it.
As far as guests, they had the voice director and a few of the voices behind Borderlands 3. I did record audio, but it came out really low, unfortunately. So I just want to say this panel was really, really good. The director shared some insight into their process and how they will always try to hire ethnic appropriate roles for their characters. He actually worded this much more eloquently than I just did. I know for some people they find this to be a touchy subject, but I really feel Borderlands has always been very diverse while at the same time not taking itself too seriously. I was able to get some autographs from Joel McDonald and Marissa Linty. So there was an AMV, aka Anime Music Video Contest that happened at this convention. I haven't seen one of these in a very, very long time. And that's not to say, I am aware, being a YouTuber and everything, I am aware that I know some people that are still making music videos and stuff like that. But as far as the popularity, I didn't realize that so many people are still doing it. And I think it's cool that they're supporting it, because to me, this was my introduction into YouTube, to be honest with you. I just didn't know anything about people doing careers and stuff. All I knew was AMVs and cat videos. That's all I knew about YouTube at the time. But that was my first experience. So really spending some time watching, who the winners were and just really high quality AMVs. I mean, it was kind of fun. It took me back a minute. One of the last panels I went to was why we need animation and video games in education. This was such an adorable panel, and I don't mean in a snarky passive-aggressive way. I mean that there were multiple teachers that attended this panel, and it made me really happy to see manga being recommended for children that would have trouble sitting through a regular book. Embracing and incorporating gaming into learning is something that blows me away till this very day. And I mean, the whole concept and idea of esports, all of that just makes me smile. I absolutely love it. Shout out to all the teachers, man. I don't have too many negatives to point out about the convention, but I do want to start at this point where I can't give it as a positive. We'll just put it in the neutral realm, leaning more towards the positive, but what we'll start off with is the dealer's room. So as far as the dealer's room in terms of like space and size and what they were offering, this was one of those moments where I'm at a convention and then I'm realizing I held off last time when I was at A-kon, saw a few things, and now I'm like, oh, I should have went ahead and bought it. Damn it, man. Because now I'm not seeing what I want. But that's how it goes sometimes. So I'm not saying this to imply that they didn't have a lot of good things or they're not selling enough cool stuff, but it's more me saying I had more options and choices at the last convention I was at, and here there wasn't really anything grabbing me. But keep in mind, there is a small caveat to that, and this is coming from someone where this is his 3rd convention of the year. So I don't think, like, if I'm not finding something, it's not the end of the world. And I've been going to conventions for years, so I mean, I don't just go crazy buying stuff anymore like I did 15 years ago. I really didn't see anyone selling like an onslaught of DVDs and Blu-rays and just tons and tons of figurines. I saw sparse collections here and there, and I understand that physical media is dying, but I mean, there's definitely still quite an audience within the anime community, people who are big collectors. And I mean, someone like me, I have slowed down significantly, but if anything I watch and I am amazed by, I do end up purchasing anime still to this day. And I have to be honest too, I was really looking for a figurine or two to purchase, and it just wasn't happening. I just wasn't seeing the characters I was looking for. So one of the things that it's a little unfair for me to kind of go at Anime Fest over, and that is the location. So when you're coming into this area, when you're coming into downtown Dallas, it's nuts, man. It is so annoying. The one-ways, how congested it is. I never, ever liked it back in the day, and I still don't like it now. It is so annoying. But then once you're there, you breathe a sigh of relief. I don't have to worry about that till it's time to leave. Now for me, this is one thing that's a negative, but remember what I've always said in countless convention videos. Not every convention does the same thing. Not every convention panders or does what others do. So, you know, if you find a convention that specializes in one thing, that doesn't mean other conventions will do the same exact thing. So with that being said, Anime Fest, excluding Gosagi Daiko, no musical guests. This kind of made me sad. Like, this is one of the things that I do look forward to in conventions, because back in the day, I was kind of into the whole Visual K thing and following all these J-rock artists. But nowadays, you know, you're working full time. It's kind of hard to keep up with all this stuff. Hell, it's hard for me to keep up with what's going on over here in terms of music. So in reality, it's like going to a convention and then a certain artist plays, and maybe this artist did like the theme song for an anime you like. It's cool to check out songs, you know, from Japanese artists. And yeah, so we're not getting any of that here. And by the way, I do want to point this out. There are conventions that are like a quarter of the size of this convention, and they still manage to sometimes pull Japanese guests. So it's not that. And excuse me, I meant to say Japanese musical artists. So it's not that. You know, it just depends on how big of an artist are you trying to get and how big of an artist are you trying to pull. Okay, so earlier I was talking about the dealer's room, right? And I said, okay, it's in the neutral realm, leaning more towards the positive, but I'm going to include this in the neutral. The gaming room is like in the opposite of the dealer's room. I'm saying it's in the neutral, but we're dancing on that negative line. And here's the reason why. It should have been bigger. I am a little disappointed with the size of this room and what was going on, what was being offered. It's a little disappointing. I think there could have been so much more. In closing, there were a lot of pluses with this convention, as you can guess. I went to a lot more panels this time around, but I was also a lot more prepared for this convention than I was A-kon. A-kon, I was freestyling it, and I do not normally do that. But in this case, I was able to enjoy the convention more because I had more stuff planned out. And overall, the panels that I went to, I enjoyed all of them, maybe except for one. We won't speak of that one. The complaints I do have are minor, and in reality, they may not really even be like valid complaints because it just may be things that this convention does not choose to focus on. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. Share the video. Share it with someone that's never been to a convention. Share it with someone that might be considering going to conventions in the Dallas area. If you are new here, I do anime reviews. I do anime news, gaming news, all kinds of stuff. And of course, conventions. If you guys keep enjoying these videos, I will keep making them. Thank you for all your support. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.